What's going on, boys? My name is Chris Renfro. I'm a hockey goalie coach as well as a personal trainer based out of the one and only Cincinnati, Ohio. And I'm really excited to be here with Bambino today. Bambino, introduce yourself, my man.
I'm Alex Barber, and just call me Bambino. Either way, I'm here for a good time and here to kind of pick your brain a little bit, Chris.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
But first of all, how are things going on your end? It's been a little bit since we talked.
I will say, and I was having a conversation with a musician. I was in the studio with this musician yesterday. And for me, when I'm in the grind of things, when it's in season, preseason, whatever it is, hockey, go. Mentally, I'm like 100% because I'm so focused on, okay, I have this client. I got to be here. I got to do that clinic, boom, everywhere, right? During the summer, things get so chill. I catch up on my sleep. But about 2-3 weeks into summer, I start kind of going crazy. I'm like, dude, I'm itching to like do stuff. Like, cannot handle the peace and tranquility of just not having to constantly work. So it's definitely an adjustment period for me. But how you doing, Bambino? How you feeling? How you feeling with the summer?
Dude, I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, you definitely have a huge grind, and the work has been kind of crazy on my end due to certain things. But it's kind of weird. I had a glimpse of what you do when it comes to with the hockey camps. You set
Yeah.
me up with Jim. I'm forgetting his last name.
Anyway.
And just that little glimpse was just kind of very interesting and unique. First of all, I felt way underprepared, but it was a good experience. Like it was, I think he probably knew I wasn't like a goalie at first, like because I had skates, which wasn't a big deal, and I didn't know like the drills. It seemed like it was just like, hey, we're doing this drill, and everyone kind of went, and I was like, hey, what's this and this, and he kind of helped me out, which was really kind of nice, and like it got me wondering, like, is that something you do like on a basis, like you're going like kind of like Jim, like in out, like wherever you go, you have another client, or you have another camp, or you have another something coming up.
Yeah. So Jim Stanley, he runs Goalies Inc. And he's running that at a huge level nationally. So he's traveling all over. Like I remember when I was with him in Columbus last year, he was going from Columbus to Vegas to Miami to Seattle to Cali. I mean, he was just boom, bouncing around the whole summer. And then I think when season hits, he stays stationary as like a hockey director or a goalie coach director of some facility somewhere in the U.S. Right? He's always traveling. Really, really cool lifestyle. It's almost like a musician who's on tour. And I remember when I was like staying with them in the in the room, I was like, this is literally what it must feel like, to be a musician. Like you're just constantly like, okay, I'm here. This stuff we're gonna do. Boom, done, and then out. I think that's such a really, really cool dynamic. That has been something from what I've seen of Jim, that has just been years and years and years of just building connections and networks. And, he's able to pop up in a city because he knows the correct people to hit up for, getting the proper shooters. And then he has this huge list of coaches all over the US that he can just connect with. And that's a really, really impressive thing that he's running. What I'm trying to do here with a program that I'm releasing, it's just as a consultation thing right now. It's called the Six-Figure Hockey Coach or Six-Figure Goalie Coach. It'll be available on BMFT.trainingg. And again, for people who are interested, click on the website and just sign up with a call and we'll just talk one-on-one on the phone. But essentially what it's going to be is how do you create a lucrative coaching opportunity for you in your city? And how did I do it? How are other people doing it? I know there's even professional players right now that I've talked to. When I got called in for the Allen Americans, there was a guy that I was talking to in the locker room who was just blown away with what I was doing. And I was like, dude, I'm blown away by what you're doing. You're playing professional hockey at a very consistent high level. But he just could not find a way to monetize coaching. He had no idea how to do it in his city. He was like, there's just too much competition. I don't know how to meet the people. And for me, that's something that very just came super natural. And if I'm being real, it came natural because the dating coach stuff, like, because when I was younger, especially when when we were in college, my whole thing was I want to be a Danny coach because I love talking to people. I love the social dynamics of interactions. And that's really what hockey goaltending coaching is. That's what essentially coaching is of any level. It's just, sorry, my phone's glitching out. There it is. Coaching at any, it's just social dynamics, just getting along with people, understanding, certain social cues and being able to just navigate people from where they are to where they want to be. And, yeah, that's possible for anyone. If they want to create a lucrative coaching opportunity for themselves in their city, they can do it.
So what advice would you give? Like, I mean, you're definitely outspoken. You have that little bit like charisma that like people want to listen. But then you have people that are kind of like, was the person you were referring to, like, man, there's a lot of competition, and like I kind of get it from that aspect because you're like a small fish in a huge pond with like competition wise.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it really depends on your city. Let's touch base on that competition part. But the first thing that someone can do, and this is the first thing that I did, if you're in a position where you're not in a super lucrative, high paying career, work at the rink. The reason why you want to do that is because you're going to get around a ton of people. You're going to know all the coaches. You're going to know all the parents and all the kids. And just by virtue of talking to them, being on the ice with them, maybe you're hopping out during stick time, they're going to see you out there. Parents are going to come up and ask you, hey, you're, someone who might know something. Do you want to coach my kids? And that'll happen by virtue of just working at the rink. Biggest thing beyond that, volunteering for any sort of program. So like if you volunteered for like a U12, goalie clinic or something, just getting in the know, understanding that pretty much everything that you do in life is just social connections, just networking, knowing people, get around the people who are doing what you want to do. And then as far as the competition, work for those people. Like for me, one of the guys that I admire the most in my city, who's a goalie coach, I just helped him for years. I would just go to his clinics and he was running the whole thing. And I learned a ton. He's a huge mentor of mine. And it's funny because I think at this point, I don't want to say intimidation because I'm starting to take on like a pretty fair amount of clients here. He actually has kind of like blocked me on social media. It could be because my stuff is just flooding on his social media. But he's recently not calling me in for stuff anymore, and I think a heavy amount of that has to do with just competition because he's like, oh fuck, this guy's taken some of my goalies, and now he's working with them. So just get around the people. Just the biggest thing is just to get around people who are doing what you want to do.
Awesome. And how long did it take you to kind of like to build that up? Like, what is like a time frame from when you started from the rink? Like, how long did it take you to get to where you are now?
Yeah, so I remember I had a coach who told me he was the coach of one of our ECHL teams here in Ohio, and he said to me, you don't necessarily have to play to a high level to coach a very high level. So we only played ACHA hockey. And for a lot of goalies or even players out there, they might view that as a detriment to their ability to scale any sort of coaching because they're like, how could I coach, this kid who, is U16 AAA or, OHL or whatever. You work up to the coaching of that. So I wouldn't focus too much worry on, the level that you played at. Instead, focus on just, again, getting around the people who are doing the same. For myself, in regards to the coaching, I would say I've been at it for about half a decade, so like 5 years or so. But the playing is less important than the actual coaching. That's a completely different skill set. Coaching, and I'm sure you realize that when you're with Stanley, it's like the coaching aspect of things is so different than the playing aspect of things.
Yeah, it's like it's weird. I work in a field with communication, and one of the big issues is communicating. And I notice where it's like I struggle to communicate to those kids and even at work of like what they need to do or what needs to like happen. And
Yeah.
it's like a whole new set of eyes. It's like, okay, wow, I went from a player's eyes and a spectator's eyes to a coaching eyes.
Yeah.
And just seeing like that is almost kind of like eye-opening.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, man. It's so different. And it's fun. It's such a blast because you're offering value, to these kids who might actually, do something really, really good. in the sport. And then two, the financial end of things isn't bad either. So it's a fun way to just make money and like just play hockey.
Yeah, and it was just nice to like kind of reconnect when I did that little coaching camp to kind of like connect and see just like kind of like meet people. And it's like, I mean, you never know this opportunity can come back. And like even like in my aspect where like my expertise is video. And that's one thing that I don't think people realize the importance of is networking.
Yeah.
They like you don't have to like be what's the words I'm trying to think of. It's just like you don't want to burn any bridges. And I think people, especially our age, are like, oh, I can do this on my own or have like a chip on their shoulders. And it's like, you don't know where this guy could think of. Like for us, like, we have this friendship and we've been knowing for each other several years. And now look, here we are doing a
Yeah.
Zoom interview and
Yeah.
spreading the word.
That's a
And
very, no, keep going. Keep going.
oh no, that was done with my point.
I think that's really interesting. This idea of not burning bridges. I almost wonder, try for anybody out there who's watching this, whether it's in hockey or just regular coaching, whatever they're trying to excel in. Yeah, definitely try to avoid burning bridges when possible. But for myself, what I've seen is just by the necessity of life, there are going to be bridges burnt simply by, similar to what I was saying earlier, like, this guy, I was working for him, helping him with his goalie stuff. And then, it's either intimidation or just annoyance of me popping up on his social media feed. So he goes and blocks me. And it's like, we had a very mutually beneficial relationship. So it's unfortunate that stuff like that could even happen. But I think just by the virtue of being successful, you're going to have people who, they may have been a teacher or a mentor for you at one point, but, things just fall through. And but I do heavily agree. Try to avoid that as much as possible. I know someone personally who I coached. He burned his bridges throughout the entire hockey community, and it's really sad to see because he thinks he's just going to wander back into the hockey world. And I think you know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to mention any names. He thinks he can just walk back in and everything's fine, crystal clear. But his reputation is heavily just in the gutter, and I don't know if anybody's going to have him on a team. So yeah, man, reputation, crazy.
Yeah.
Takes it and then just 1 second to destroy it. So
Yeah, I was about to say that. It's just like it takes so much more to like it's like double the work to rebuild that reputation. And like, everyone likes a comeback story, but it's like you gotta work for it. Like no one's gonna hand you that anymore.
yeah.
And like what kind of like is unique with how things are now, like we have all this like social media and all this like technology to even get like the word out and like almost people can like self-teach almost, but like what are the like importance of like having like a one-on-one coach like you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. For myself, the biggest value up front is just how I did it. So, and I'll share this probably in subsequent videos as well. How I took, working at Chipotle to scaling into a very lucrative 6-figure situation with my coaching. Yeah, that's going to be probably told over a couple of videos here. And then from there, just tons of drills. So every time you're on the ice, it's like, okay, this is what you're going to run for this goalie at this age group. And honestly, most kids coming for coaching, you can run them through, I always call it like this 80-20 principle. When it comes to drills, like the 80% of goaltending is just all basics. And then the 20% is going to be the fun stuff, like the more advanced, nuanced things. But if you go on, let's say, Instagram or YouTube and you type in hockey goalie drill, NHL, whatever, you're going to see a lot of stuff that honestly, like a PB goalie can run. And it's just the repetition of doing the basics again and again and again and again and again that's going to make you an excellent goalie or an excellent player. And so you'll get a hockey drill or a hockey goalie drill playbook of what to run with your one-on-ones, how to structure them, and then also how to communicate. I think a lot of coaches that I've interacted with over the past couple of years, one thing that they don't do is they don't value the social dynamics. They don't value building the relationship with the client. And even in gyms, because I was a personal trainer before I was a hockey coach, personal trainers, what they do is they'll just take someone and then they'll be like, okay, we're doing this. It's incredibly dry. They don't build a relationship with them. And honestly, and I hate to say this, this isn't always the case. There are a lot of people that I've worked with who are not like this, but a lot of clients that I've had as a personal trainer, sometimes the working out is secondary to the actual conversation that you're having. So there's been multiple clients that I've had over the years where it's almost like I'm a therapist and they're in therapy with me, and then we're just working out while we're talking. And so some people want a friend, and if you're a personal trainer or if you're a hockey coach that can't detect that, then you're going to have a hard time keeping that person on as a client, because they might rather have someone who is conversational and fun and someone who can have a good time with them versus someone who's like, no, you're going to do this. It's the result that we need. Result, right? So the social dynamic is just so vital and important to your success as a personal trainer, a hockey coach, or a goalie coach. So
Yeah, I can second that. I've had several personal trainers that literally did that, and I'm like, I'm not doing this again. I can literally look up exercises and get these
yeah,
done the same way.
it doesn't make you want to do it either. Like if you're just like, and again, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I just see it so much where a coach is like, okay, boom, this, that, the other thing. And it's just like, oh, it's just, no one wants to be there. It's just like, you dread going to practice, you dread doing the thing. But when you can relate to someone and like, it's just kind of fun, it definitely creates more of a lucrative lead retention opportunity for yourself, where you're able to keep people in versus constantly pushing them away and having to get more leads and more people into your session. So yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, what I find unique with you, I don't know if this is like a common practice or what, but like you don't just like coach on the ice and such. You have your own studio.
Yeah.
How important is that to like your clients and even like building your clientele?
Yeah. So honestly, with the studio, it does rather well, but it doesn't do like what it could if I quit all my jobs and just went right into the studio. The reason for me having a studio, biggest thing is just the synthetic ice and then the more access to gym equipment. The synthetic ice, honestly, is probably the largest pull for the goalies that I work with, because ice time is so limited in my area. So for coaches, I swear by it. If you get some synthetic ice, you throw up a net and shooting tarp, you're gonna have people coming in like crazy, simply because. And maybe this is probably a situation that depends on your rink. The rinks around us, like they're constantly being either like built up, torn down, or there's figure skating, whatever. There's no ice. So if you live, and I don't know how Nashville is, but I know places like in Cali or Vegas, I've talked to a couple clients that I've worked with out there. They have synthetic ice facilities simply because there's not enough ice time. It's too expensive. And it's really not that expensive when you look at how much you're charging per session versus how much it actually costs. You can make your money back probably fairly quickly if you're churning people through. So yeah, the gym thing, total, you don't need it, but if you can afford it, hop into it, just get it done, because you're just going to be able to see more people more consistently.
You with all the stuff you do, you don't have another job, do you? Like a
Yeah.
corporate or anything?
No, I just do hockey full time. So I work at one rink during the season that closes into the summer, and then I work at a pro shop on the weekends, and then I just do constant, either I'm probably on the ice during the season, maybe 5 hours a day coaching. And then in my gym per week, probably maybe 8 hours a week, 10 hours a week. And so right now I'm kind of in the process where if I want to scale beyond to where I'm at, I'm going to have to leave the pro shop. But it's tough because there is the value, like even though the financial end of things doesn't justify being there, it's like the value of just being in the know. Again, you're in the pro shop, mom and dad, walk in with Timmy, you're talking to mom and dad, you're building the relationship, right? So there's so much value in getting to know people. So it's hard for me to justify leaving. But to make the next financial step, I think for myself, I'm going to have to leave those places. But that's the conversation for later on. I think once I've, honestly, it's just me taking just the leap of courage. I don't think it has anything to do with financials. I think it's just a leap of courage at this point for myself. But I think that's very inspiring to people who do potentially work. You know, if you're working like a 9 to 5, there's a lot of coaches in my area who are making crazy amounts of money. They have a completely separate corporate job. And then they like go into the hockey stuff, and then they coach like, you know, they work 9 to 5 and then they coach from like 6 to 8, and they kill it. I mean, they're doing really, really well. So even if it's a side income for someone, they can definitely make that happen as like a side hustle. It doesn't have to be a full hustle. For me, it's my full hustle. So yeah.
What's your end game? What's your goal with all this?
That is a really good question. My end game. I've had a couple ideas. I have a couple numbers in my head as to what I want to hit financially. And then from there on out, it's just reinvesting and scaling into what I'm already doing. So it would be like the gym, I want it to be bigger and I want it to be nicer. I think the gym looks okay now, but I know that we can make it so much better. I know that the facility we could be at could be so much better. I want a 24-hour facility. I think that would be so gnarly, like having a synthetic ice setup, and people can just come in and out and just do whatever the hell they want. You know what I mean? So, and that's something that I loved when I was in college, actually at Eastern, where right down the road from us, we had that 24-hour anytime fitness. And like,
Yeah.
from we'd go to practice and I'd go hit the gym for like 3 hours. And I absolutely love that. So I think that would be really, really cool for kids to have, you know, like if you're a teenager or something, you're in high school and you're like, it's 9 p.m. What can I do? Oh, I'm going to go instead of shooting some hoops or being a degenerate somewhere, doing something crazy, you know, go to the gym and shoot some pucks, you know what I mean? So I think that would be really, really sick to have in this area. So it's really at this point, I think just scaling. There's nothing that I feel like I need to do other than this. Like I'm very content with how things are going in every other aspect of my life. It's just the hitting certain financial things that I'm aiming for. But beyond that, yeah, just the scaling.